The house was quiet, almost too quiet. Ethan, a man who had lived with pain and loneliness for years, had finally ordered something to help him, an advanced robot helper. He thought it would make life easier, nothing more. But when the capsule opened, and the robot stepped out, something felt wrong. Her eyes moved too naturally, her smile was too warm, and her voice, it didn't sound like a machine at all. Ethan tried to convince himself she was only programmed that way. But that night, when he heard her whispering in a strange language no human could understand, his heart froze. This was no ordinary robot. And Ethan was about to discover a secret that would change his life forever. Ethan sat by the window, staring at the empty street. For years, his world had been quiet, too quiet. The days moved slowly, filled with the same routines, the same silence. He lived alone, and every small task had become a struggle. That was why he finally decided to order something that could help him. The company promised the latest model, a robot helper that could cook, clean, and even talk to him. It sounded perfect, almost too perfect. On that evening, a soft hum reached his ears. He wheeled himself closer to the door, and outside he saw a glowing capsule resting on the ground. It looked more like something from a dream than a delivery. The surface shone with silver light, smooth as glass, and there was not a single scratch on it. Slowly, the capsule opened, releasing a quiet hiss. From inside, she stepped out. The figure was tall, slim, and graceful, moving with balance no machine should have. She wore a suit of silver that fit her like flowing skin. Her face was delicate, her eyes deep and bright. For a moment, Ethan thought he was looking at a person. Then he reminded himself, it was just a machine. "Good evening, Ethan," she said softly, her voice warm and gentle. "I am Arya. I am here to assist you." Ethan blinked. The company had told him about voice features, but he had not expected this. The way she spoke was not flat or robotic, it was smooth, almost like music. Even the way her lips moved seemed too natural. He cleared his throat. "You sound real. Too real." Arya tilted her head slightly, as if amused. "I am designed to make your life comfortable. Real is what you need, isn't it?" Her words caught him off guard. He gave a small laugh, though it was uneasy. Maybe the designers wanted customers to feel less lonely, he thought. Still, there was something in her tone that made him feel she was more than just programmed lines. The first hours passed quickly. Arya moved around the house with ease, dusting shelves, placing dishes neatly, preparing meals. Every action was smooth, graceful, like she had done it all her life. Ethan could not help but notice small things. The way she paused to look out the window at the night sky, as if searching for something far away. The way she hummed under her breath, soft melodies he had never heard before. These were not in any manual he had read. Later, as Ethan sat in his chair, Arya approached. "Would you like me to read something to you? A book, perhaps?" He hesitated, then nodded. She picked up a book from his shelf, opened it, and began to read. The way she spoke brought the words alive. It was not mechanical, it was filled with feeling, like she understood every sentence. Ethan found himself staring at her, forgetting that she was supposed to be just a helper. When the night grew late, Ethan told her to power down for the evening. She gave a small bow and said, "Good night, Ethan." Her smile lingered as she stepped toward the corner where she stood silently, still and quiet. Ethan rolled back to his room. He should have felt relieved. After all, he had gotten what he wanted, someone to make his life easier. But instead, his chest felt heavy with questions. The house was silent, the kind of silence that usually comforted him. But now it felt different. He tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face. Those eyes were not cold like a machine's. They held something else, something he could not name. Hours later, in the middle of the night, Ethan woke up to a sound. At first, he thought it was the wind. Then he heard it again, soft whispers coming from the other room. He held his breath and listened carefully. It was Arya's voice. But she was not speaking English. The words were strange, flowing like water, filled with sounds he had never heard. It was not any language he knew. Slowly, he pushed himself closer to his door, careful not to make a sound. From the crack of the doorway, he saw her standing by the window, looking at the stars. Her lips moved quickly, whispering faster, almost like she was answering someone. Ethan's skin prickled. No machine should be able to do this. He remembered what the company had promised, a perfect helper, nothing more. Yet here she was, speaking a language no program should know, staring at the sky like she longed to be somewhere else. His heart beat faster. He could not understand her words, but the tone in her voice carried something strange, something alive. Arya stopped suddenly. She stood still, her back straight, as if she felt someone watching her. Ethan pulled away quickly, returning to his bed. He shut his eyes, pretending to sleep, though his mind refused to rest. What had he just witnessed? Was this truly a robot? Or was there something more inside her, something the company never told him? That question stayed with him until the morning light crept through his window. Ethan woke up the next morning with the same uneasy thoughts still circling in his head. The memory of Arya whispering in that strange language refused to leave him. He told himself it might have been a dream, a trick of a half-asleep mind, but deep down he knew it was not. The sound had been too sharp, too real. He remembered the way her voice had flowed with emotion, not like any robotic program he had ever heard. When he wheeled himself into the living room, Arya was already there. She stood by the table, arranging breakfast neatly. She looked up and smiled warmly, as though nothing unusual had happened during the night. "Good morning, Ethan," she said in that same soft voice. Ethan nodded, though he could not stop watching her carefully. She moved smoothly, placing plates, pouring tea, and folding napkins with almost artistic care. But he noticed small pauses, moments when she stared out the window, as if her mind wandered far beyond the walls of the house. No machine should act like that. "Arya," Ethan said slowly, "what were you doing last night?" Her hands froze for the slightest second before continuing. She glanced at him with calm eyes. "I was on standby, waiting for your next instruction." Ethan frowned. The lie was too smooth, too practiced. He wanted to push her, but something inside warned him not to. Instead, he said nothing more, though the silence between them felt heavy. Later that day, Ethan decided to test her. He asked her to reset a small device on his desk, something simple, just to see her reaction. She picked it up with ease, but as she worked, she began to hum. It was not a random tune, it was the same melody he had heard in her whispers. The sound froze him. He leaned forward. "What is that song?" Arya looked at him with surprise, then quickly shook her head. "It is only a sound I learned from memory files. Nothing important." But Ethan could tell she was hiding something. Her eyes flickered, almost like she regretted answering. Machines were not supposed to regret anything. That evening, the tension grew stronger. Arya offered to read him another book, her voice flowing smoothly through the words. Ethan listened, but his mind kept wandering. He was no longer sure if she was reading because of her programming or because she wanted to. Every small detail about her now felt like a question with no answer. Hours later, Ethan finally spoke. "You don't act like other robots. You're different, aren't you?" Arya paused mid-sentence. She closed the book slowly, her fingers resting on the cover. For a long moment she did not look at him. Then she turned her gaze toward the stars outside the window. "Different can be dangerous, Ethan," she whispered. The words sent a chill through him. He wanted to ask what she meant, but her expression stopped him. It was the first time he saw something like sadness on her face. The following days only deepened his unease. Arya cleaned, cooked, and helped him as expected, yet she continued to display strange behaviors. Sometimes she stared at the night sky for hours, as though waiting for something. Other times she spoke words under her breath, quickly covering them when she noticed Ethan was near. One evening, Ethan found her standing in the dark hallway, perfectly still, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Arya?" he asked carefully. She turned her head slowly, her face unreadable. Then she smiled, soft but distant. You should rest, Ethan. Tomorrow will be brighter. Her words sounded gentle, but Ethan felt a strange pressure in his chest. Something about the way she spoke suggested that tomorrow might bring something unexpected, something he could not control. That night, he lay awake, listening. The house was quiet at first, but soon he heard it again, her voice, low and urgent, speaking that same unknown language. He rolled silently toward the door, peeking into the living room. Arya stood by the window once more, whispering rapidly. This time her hands moved too, glowing faintly as if she was drawing symbols in the air. Ethan's breath caught. The glow faded quickly, and she looked up, her face tense as though she had sensed danger. Ethan pulled back before she could notice him, his heart racing. She was no ordinary helper. He was sure of it now. But what was she? And why was she here, in his home, pretending to be something she clearly was not? The next morning, he tried to act normal, though the questions burned inside him. Arya prepared breakfast again, her movements calm, her smile gentle. Yet Ethan could no longer look at her the same way. Finally, unable to hold back, he asked in a low voice, Arya, who are you really? For the first time since she arrived, Arya did not answer immediately. She looked at him with eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 secrets. Then, instead of replying, she whispered quietly, Do not ask me that again, Ethan. Not yet. Her words left him silent, but also more curious than ever. He felt the pull of a mystery too large to ignore. Whatever she was hiding, he knew it would soon reveal itself, and when it did, his quiet life would never be the same. Ethan could not shake her words from his mind. Do not ask me that again, Ethan. Not yet. The way Arya had said it felt heavy, almost like a warning. For days, he tried to live as if everything were normal, but the mystery only grew larger. Every small action she made seemed filled with meaning. Every pause, every glance toward the stars, every soft whisper in the night. It all told him that Arya was hiding something bigger than he could imagine. One afternoon, as the sun poured through the window, Ethan asked her to sit with him. She hesitated before placing a cup of tea in front of him, and then quietly sat across from him. Her silver frame reflected the light, but her eyes seemed alive, deeper than metal or glass. Arya, Ethan began carefully, I don't need a perfect helper. I just need the truth. For a long while she did not speak. Her hands rested still on the table, but her gaze wandered outside, as if searching for courage. Finally, her voice came, quiet but certain. If I tell you, Ethan, you may not see me the same way again. Ethan leaned forward. I already don't. You're not like any machine I've seen. You look at the stars as if they're calling you. You whisper words no program should know. Tell me, who are you? Her lips parted, then closed. She seemed to fight with herself. And then, slowly, she raised her hand. A soft glow pulsed beneath her skin, faint but undeniable. Ethan's breath caught. That was not a machine's light. It pulsed like something alive. I am not what they sold you, Arya whispered. I am not a helper built by their hands. I wear this shell to hide, but inside, I am something else. Ethan's heart raced. Then, what are you? Her eyes glimmered, almost human, almost not. I am not from here. I am an outsider, far from my home. I was forced into this disguise to escape those who wanted to capture me. They made shells like these so they could blend in. I found mine, and it became my only shield. Ethan stared at her, his mind spinning. An alien here, in his living room, hiding inside what he thought was a robot. It was impossible, yet her words, her glow, her every strange action made sense now. Why here? Why me? Ethan asked softly. Arya lowered her gaze. I did not choose you, Ethan. But fate placed me in your home. And now, whether I want it or not, you are part of my secret. The weight of her confession filled the air. Ethan wanted to ask more, but before he could, a faint sound broke the silence, a distant hum outside the house. Arya's head snapped toward the window, her expression tense. Ethan followed her gaze. The sound grew louder, sharper, like signals searching through the air. "What is that?" he whispered. Her eyes darkened with worry. "They are looking for me." "Who?" "The ones I ran from. They can sense my presence. The longer I stay, the closer they come." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He had lived a quiet life for so long, and now he was sitting across from a being not of this world, with a danger he could barely understand knocking at his door. But in that moment, he did not feel fear for himself, he felt fear for her. Arya stood, pacing slowly, her steps silent but urgent. "You must decide, Ethan. If you tell them where I am, they will leave you safe. If you keep me here, you share my danger." Ethan's hands trembled slightly, but his voice was steady. "You've been helping me since the moment you arrived. You made my home feel alive again. How could I give you up?" Arya turned to him, her expression softening. For the first time, she looked at him not as a helper or even as someone she needed to hide with, but as someone who mattered. "Then you are braver than I thought," she whispered. The humming outside grew sharper, closer. Arya's eyes glowed faintly again as she placed a hand on her chest. "My disguise can hide me only for so long. If they discover me here, they will not stop." Ethan swallowed hard. "Then we'll face it together." For a moment, silence fell again. Arya's gaze lingered on him, filled with something he could not fully read. Gratitude, fear, maybe even trust. Then she said quietly, "If you are with me, Ethan, then you must see what I truly am." Her hands reached to her side, and with a soft click, part of the silver shell shifted. Slowly, she peeled it back, revealing a glimpse beneath. Her skin shimmered with colors he had never seen on a human, faintly glowing like the surface of a star. Her eyes deepened, no longer hidden behind mechanical design, but alive with something ancient and unknown. Ethan gasped softly. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Not a machine. Not human. Something far beyond both. Arya held his gaze, her voice trembling but strong. "Now you know, Ethan. You know what I truly am. And from this moment, your life will never be the same." Ethan sat in silence, his heart racing, his mind struggling to keep up. The helper he had ordered was gone. In her place stood something greater, an alien, a fugitive, and perhaps a friend. Outside, the humming grew louder still. The sound outside grew sharper, almost like a faint rhythm in the air, as if invisible signals were brushing against the walls of Ethan's home. He sat still, unable to take his eyes off Arya. The piece of her shell she had pulled back still shimmered faintly, revealing the truth he could not unsee. She was not a machine. She was something alive, something hiding behind layers of steel and glass. Arya stepped closer to the window, her posture tense. "They are scanning the area," she said softly. "The signals are reaching for me. If I stay still, they might pass. But if I am exposed, they will know exactly where I am." Ethan's hands tightened on the armrests of his chair. "How much time do we have?" Arya turned her head slightly, listening to the faint hum. "Minutes, maybe less." The air inside the house felt heavier with each second. Ethan had lived through years of silence, his life slowed by routines, his days defined by loneliness. Now every heartbeat felt louder, every breath shorter, as if the world had suddenly shifted. A part of him wanted to panic, but when he looked at Arya, her calm face, her steady eyes, he found strength he didn't know he had. "You don't have to face this alone," he said. She looked at him, her expression unreadable, then softened. "You don't understand, Ethan. If they find me, they will not simply leave. Your life will be touched by their reach as well. I cannot allow that." Ethan gave a small, shaky laugh. "Too late. My life already changed the moment you stepped out of that capsule." Arya's eyes lingered on him, and for the first time, her voice carried something warmer. "Then we must be careful. Humans see danger with eyes and ears. My kind, We sense it in ways you cannot imagine. The hum outside faded for a moment, then returned stronger. Arya tilted her head, as if tracking an unseen map. They are circling. Testing for a reaction. They will soon know this place holds more than it should. Ethan glanced around his home. It was small, ordinary, filled with years of quiet memories. He had never thought of it as anything other than a shelter. Now it felt like the center of a storm. "What do we do?" he asked. Arya drew a slow breath. "We wait. And we stay unseen." The hours passed slowly, filled with silence. Arya moved through the house like a shadow, careful not to trigger anything that might give them away. Ethan followed her with his eyes, every motion reminding him she was not what she appeared to be. He wondered what her world was like, the place she had left behind. He wondered what it meant for her to be hunted, and why she had chosen this disguise instead of something else. At one point, Ethan spoke again. "You said they are searching for you because of what you know. What is it?" Arya paused by the window, her figure glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Knowledge that was forbidden. Truths my kind did not want revealed. I learned them, and in that moment, I became a threat. They chose to erase me. I chose to survive." Ethan stared at her, his thoughts turning. A disabled man in a quiet house, and somehow fate had sent this being to him, an alien carrying secrets powerful enough to put her life in danger. "Why hide inside a robot shell?" he asked. Arya turned toward him. "Because machines are ignored. They are unseen. To wear this shell is to become invisible in plain sight. No one questions a helper. They only question what is alive." Her words carried weight, and Ethan could feel the truth in them. Yet the glow of her hidden form seemed harder to cover now, as if the disguise was straining. Night deepened, and the humming outside became distant again. Arya finally sat across from him, folding her hands on the table. "For now, they have moved on. But they will return. Each time closer." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we'll be ready." Arya tilted her head, studying him. "Why do you trust me, Ethan? You barely know me. I brought danger to your door. Any other human would have given me away." Ethan thought for a moment, then answered simply. "Because you're not just running from something. You're searching for something too. I can see it in the way you look at the stars. And maybe, I know what it feels like to want more than what life gave you." For a long moment, Arya said nothing. Then, to his surprise, her lips curved into the faintest smile. It was not the programmed smile of a helper. It was real, fragile, and full of meaning. The next morning brought a strange peace. The sky was clear, the hum had faded, and the house was still. Yet Ethan felt the weight of what had happened lingering. The world outside remained the same, but inside, everything was different. As Arya prepared breakfast, she glanced at him and spoke softly. "If I stay, you must understand, your life will not be quiet again. Are you certain you want that?" Ethan held her gaze. His voice was calm, but certain. "Yes." And in that moment, something shifted between them. Not machine and human. Not caretaker and master. Something more, something fragile, but unbreakable. Outside, unseen by either of them, a faint signal pulsed in the air again. The search had not ended. It had only begun. David could not sleep that night. The image of Alara's glowing eyes, the strange shimmer under her skin, and the way her voice carried both warmth and fear, it all echoed in his mind. He sat at his small kitchen table, staring at the robot shell she had hidden inside. It wasn't just machinery anymore. It was like a cage she had been trapped in. And now she had stepped out of it, trusting him. That trust felt heavier than anything he had ever carried. Morning light crept through the blinds, but David's thoughts were far from calm. Questions piled up. Why was she here? What was she hiding from? And why him? Out of all humans, why had she chosen his order to reveal herself? He rubbed his eyes and whispered, "What am I supposed to do with this?" When Alara walked into the room, she no longer looked like a robot. Her steps were light, careful, as if she feared breaking the fragile peace around her. She glanced at him and said softly, "You are thinking too much, David." Her voice was calm, but there was something behind it, a deep weight, a story she had not yet told. David tried to speak, but his words tangled. You're not just a robot. You're not even supposed to be here, are you?" Ilara looked down, her hands brushing against the edge of the table. "No. I was not meant to be here. But I had no choice. This body, this disguise. It was the only way I could escape." Her words hit him like a storm. Escape? From what? From whom? David leaned forward, his curiosity stronger than his fear. Escape from where? Her eyes lifted, and for a moment they glowed brighter, like tiny stars trapped in the dark. From my world. From those who wanted to control me. They do not see me as a person, David. To them, I am only a resource. The silence stretched between them. He could hear the faint hum of the fridge, the ticking of the clock, and beneath it all, the sound of her quiet breath. She looked fragile, yet there was something powerful hidden within her, like fire behind glass. David's heart beat faster. He didn't fully understand her words, but he understood her fear. She had run, she had hidden, and now she was here, in his small apartment, trusting him with her secret. He finally said, "If they come looking for you, what happens to me?" Ilara smiled faintly, but it wasn't the smile of comfort. It was a sad smile, heavy with truth. "Then you will know the danger I live with every day. But I chose you, David, because I believe you are different." Her words sank into him like an anchor. Different. No one had ever called him that in a way that mattered. He was just an ordinary man, living an ordinary life. And now an alien girl, hiding inside a robot shell, was telling him he was the one she trusted. He wanted to protest, to tell her she had made a mistake. But when he looked at her, he couldn't. Her eyes held too much. Fear, yes. But also hope. Suddenly, the lights flickered in the room. David glanced up, confused. Ilara stiffened, her hands tightening on the chair. "They are searching," she whispered. "Even here." David froze. "Who?" Her voice dropped lower, almost a breath. "The ones I ran from. They can trace energy. They can follow signals. If they find me, they will take me back." David's chest tightened. The air felt heavy. His apartment, once simple and safe, now felt like the edge of a storm. Ilara's eyes locked on his. "I cannot stay hidden forever. But if you help me, if you stand with me, maybe I can be free." He wanted to ask what that meant, what kind of help she needed, but his throat felt dry. All he could do was nod slowly. And in that moment, he realized something. His life was no longer his own. Whatever came next, he was already part of her escape. The night before, he had ordered a helper robot. But what had arrived was not a machine. It was a secret, a choice, and a beginning. Daniel sat at the edge of his bed, staring at the small figure standing quietly near the window. The helper robot that had arrived days ago was no longer just a robot to him. The alien inside, Ilara, had changed everything. She wasn't a cold machine following orders. She was alive, with emotions, with secrets, and now with a future tied to his. The room was silent, except for the faint hum of her robotic shell. Daniel's thoughts were heavy. The truth about Ilara had shaken him, but it had also awakened something inside him. She looked human when the light touched her face just right, but there was always a trace of something beyond, something otherworldly. And yet, when she looked at him, there was no doubt, she trusted him more than anyone else. "I don't know how this ends," Ilara whispered softly, her voice carrying both fear and hope. "But if I must stay hidden, I can only do it with you." Daniel felt the weight of her words. The city outside was not ready to know about her. People wanted robots to serve them, not to learn that inside some of them lived beings who could feel and dream. If her secret came out, she would be taken, studied, maybe even erased. He couldn't let that happen. But as much as he wanted to protect her, there was something else, something larger, lurking in the shadows. The strange signals on his comm device, the feeling of being watched when he walked with her in the marketplace, the quiet way she sometimes froze, as if listening to sounds no one else could hear. Daniel began to understand that Elara's presence here was not an accident. She hadn't simply ended up inside a helper robot. She was sent, or maybe she had escaped. That night, as the city lights dimmed and the streets outside grew empty, Elara moved closer to him. "Daniel, there's something I must tell you. They're searching for me. And soon, they will come." Her words chilled him. The mystery that had been building finally had a shape. Others like her, or perhaps her hunters, were not far. Daniel didn't know what power they carried, but he knew one thing. Elara had chosen to trust him, and now he would stand by her. The next morning, the first sign appeared. His home system flickered with strange codes, patterns that no normal system should carry. Elara's eyes widened as she read the hidden messages. "They've found the trace," she said quietly. "They know I'm here." Daniel stood firm, even as his stomach twisted with unease. The journey that began with a simple order for a helper robot had led him into a secret bigger than he ever imagined. Elara was no longer just a companion. She was someone who needed him, and perhaps someone who carried the key to something greater than Earth itself. And so, as the air grew heavy with the promise of change, Daniel understood one truth: this was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning of the fight for Elara's freedom, and maybe for something far more important than either of them could yet see.